Jabari Smith, should he be / will he be the number 1 pick in June?
Yeah, right now I would take him at number 1 for a lot of the reasons that you just said, right? He is reliable on both ends of the court. I think he's a potential difference maker on the defensive end with the way that he moves his feet laterally. You look at the way the NBA is going. I mean, these guys who can actually slide and be switchable defensively, it's so important. He can also protect the weak side of the rim. Obviously, Walker Kessler does a majority of that job for Auburn because he's such a force inside. But I mean, I'm really, really impressed with Jabari Smith and his attitude on defense. I really like that he has become more physical as a rebounder. That's a very physical Kentucky team. I remember, I believe it was either late in the first half, early in the second half, he got contacted going up for a defensive rebound, skied way above the rim, had his right arm like above the square essentially to pull down this rebound, grabs and goes, starts a transition opportunity. I think the reason that personally I would take him over Paolo Banchero has to do with the defensive ability, in addition to what I think is some real potential offensive ability off the bounce. You look at him, he can grab and go on the break. He is capable of, taking pull-ups, off of these grab and goes and creating pull-up 3-point shots. There was that stretch in the first half in that game where, he takes, I think like a 2-dribble pull-up where he pump fakes Keon Brooks out of his shoes and then takes like a 15-footer and nails it, hits like a 1-dribble fadeaway pull up from the left or right side of the court, and then just like catches and shoots off of a jab step over Keon Brooks again for 3. Like, this is stuff that is ridiculous. On top of that, he is still 18 years old. I mean, this kid is just scratching the surface of who he is. He's almost, I believe, like a full year younger than Chet Holmgren. Which is just crazy to think about. And that's not to downgrade what Chet is. It's more just to accentuate how impressive it is that Jabari Smith has been able to do what he's been able to do thus far at Auburn. The shooting is genuinely special. Right. There are not many guys that are 6'10" that can shoot at the level he can. It's smooth. It's confident. It's great off of pull-ups. It's great off the catch. It's everything that you're asking for. I would take him at number 1 because I think the upside is just higher. If all of the tools come together, Jabari Smith's, I think, the guy, even though if I had to win a college basketball game tomorrow, I probably would take Paolo Banchero, to be honest.
Yeah, I've been on Paolo Banchero should be the number 1 pick in the 2022 draft the entire time. I'm at least now open to, Jabari Smith has to be considered. First off, when you stand next to him, he's legit 6'10". Like, it's not a exaggerated height. He's 6'10". Some intangible stuff. We've talked about this before. He's the son of a professional basketball player. I think Sam would agree with this. Front office executives value that, in a real way now. When I talked to Bruce Pearl about it, he said, people think that being the son of a professional athlete, it's like, well, he can see what it's like to be a pro. It's like, yeah, you can see all the positives growing up. Like, you're around it, you see it, you know what it takes. You also see the other side of it. You've got a dad who can tell you what to avoid, what you have to stay away from, what not to do. The what not to do is often just as important as the what to do. So all of that's good stuff. Talking to Bruce about him, in advance of the game, he said the other thing, and you'll never be able to see this in a game, but he's everybody's best friend. His teammates love him. Like, if you ask our players, who's your best friend on our team, they'll all say Jabari Smith. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but like he's everybody's best friend is the way Bruce put it. His teammates love him. Another point Bruce made about him, he said the reason he's shooting so well isn't just because he's a great shooter, which he is. It's a high release point on a 6'10" frame. It's a consistent release point, but he's not just shooting a great percentage because he's a great shooter. It's also because he really only takes great shots. He doesn't take bad shots. Now, when I was talking to Bill Raftery about it, Bill was like, I kind of want him taking more shots. I'd like to see him get more involved. But I suspect it'll be one of those situations where when it's time to go, he'll go. You see that sometimes with prospects. Like, they'll play. Hey, it's time to go. Now take us over, and he'll be ready to take that over. I think he's capable of that. But the one thing Raph said was like, I'd like to see him be a little more. If it means taking a bad shot to get 4 more shots, I'm happy. I'm cool with that. Like, he's the most talented guy in this building. But everything you see is great, and honestly, everything you hear about him is also pretty great.
Yeah, no, I can back that up as well. Any time I've talked to NBA executives, any SEC coaches I've talked to, they've said the same thing. Just an elite level kid, great character, not necessarily on the quieter end, but not like the most demonstrative guy necessarily. Keeps a very even keel, keeps calm, keeps cool, keeps collected. Just a very, very high level kid. To kind of speak to Bill Raftery's point, who am I to disagree with Bill Raftery? Just one of the legends, one of the best. But I think that part of the reason that he is not as aggressive as he is has to do with the fact that he's not the most comfortable ball handler right now. Like, he's not like Paulo Banchero, where he can ball handle in a phone booth, right? And go like right to left crossover, left to right crossover in the mid range. Like, I don't think his handle is tight enough to do that yet. And I think that is kind of what separates him. It's all in a straight line. It's all to get to his pull-up game, all to get to his step-back game, because that's what he's most comfortable with. And he's such a good shooter that he can do that. Where there's probably a little bit more room for him is maybe bending a little bit more on those drives and getting all the way to the rim. Instead of, stopping and pulling up in the mid-range, or like trying to cross someone over, them off bounce, right? Like, that's what I like to see him do a little bit more. Try to get all the way to the rim, attacking a closeout, but he's so good as a shooter that it's hard to say. But I think that's why we see him take 10 shots per game as opposed to the 14 shots per game he probably could take if he wanted to. It's more of a ball handling thing. I think that it's just not quite there yet. And he's such an unselfish guy that he wants to get KD Johnson involved. Although I don't think anyone needs to tell KD Johnson to get involved.
Well,